Here with Mark Leibovit. He's of vrtrader.com and vrgoldletter.com. Mark, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, thanks.
Mark, you did an incredible presentation right now. We're at the Casey Research Summit, and he makes sure he brings a select group of experts. That's what I love about this summit. You had a lot of great charts up there. If you could just tell us a little bit about your website and what you guys do,
Okay.
and then we'll let the conversation progress.
Okay. I'm a technical trader. Been doing this for about 35 years. I have my own proprietary indicator called the volume reversal, which is available for traders under the Metastock program currently, where they can buy that indicator and just see what I'm doing. If nobody else has that, it's based on the premise that volume precedes price. I developed it when I was a floor trader many years ago on the Chicago Board Options Exchange. No indicator is perfect, but it's made me money over the years and it's kept me on the right side of the market. I use it in all markets, whether it's currencies, gold, silver, stock indexes. Universally applies to the concept that smart money is always moving ahead of price advance or price decline. And we also cover a lot of other things. I'm very much a contrarian. Looking at the financial press is perhaps a contrary indicator at emotional peaks and troughs in the market. I'm also, very much into cycle studies. I do a lot of seasonality and cycle work. I was influenced many years ago by the work of Yale Hirsch and the Stock Trader's Almanac. I talked about that in my presentation. So I believe there's repetitive cyclical patterns in the market. We even mentioned the lunar cycle today as a possible cyclical pattern. So what I do is I put it all together. I'm looking at the cyclical pattern, I'm looking at my volume changes, are we in an uptrend or a downtrend? We make a longer term forecast, but we trade quite a bit because I have this view that if you can ring the register often enough, you view this as a way of making a living, not as a way to get rich. You're going to be a lot better off than sitting there saying I'm in a huge position and hold this for years and hope that I become a multimillionaire. We've seen too much volatility. Yeah. So I'm happy if you catch a 3-month or a 6-month move in the markets and just move on.
And what about the economy? I mean, you have a lot of things going on with our national debt, the political environment, the Federal Reserve doing quantitative easing. Does that factor in at all, or are you only looking at the charts and focusing on volume?
Well, I'm very much involved in the political commentary because I'm very opinionated about what's going on. I think the country is going in the wrong direction. I think the world's, for the most part, the Western world's going in the wrong direction with the printing of money and the fact that we broke from the gold standard and stuff. So I talk a lot about that. But in terms of day-to-day making money, I'm looking at my technical indicators. In other words, you don't want to get, so entrenched in your opinion about, the politics or whether gold is always going up or whether some individual stock that you like, whether it's Apple Computer or even some of the gun stocks that I talked about today, like Sturm Ruger or Smith & Wesson. You get caught and fall in love with the situation, you get yourself in trouble. So I try to temper that with my technical work, and if it looks like we're overbought and it's time to get out. In fact, I was a nightly business report on PBS just about 4 weeks ago, and I recommended one of the gun stocks, Smith & Wesson, along with silver, and I think it was $5 and it went to 10. It was up like 100% on the stock, and they asked me on the air, what do you do with it? I said, I took profits.
Yeah.
I made 100% in 6 months. It did go about a point higher, and I still like it philosophically because there's this view that if Obama gets reelected, or the perception he gets reelected, we could lose some of our Second Amendment rights, and there'd be more people buying guns. And
so guns and silver, that's perfect for this conference.
Right, and they highlighted my interview on NBR a few months ago, guns and silver, because that's what I was talking about. I mean, basically, I like the silver market. I thought it was way oversold, and the gun stocks look like a play, but that could change. It may be if Obama doesn't get back in, maybe the demand for the gun stocks will drop off and the stocks will collapse. Maybe there'll be less demand for silver too. We'll just have to see what happens.
When you look at a stock, because you have so much experience with the stock market in general, do the innocent way to look at a stock, I guess, for most people is I'm buying Nike and I'm going to be a shareholder and I'm going to enjoy the profits and the growth of the company. Do you have any companies where you buy them long term, or are you just looking at these as vehicles to trade?
I'm not saying I couldn't do well doing that, but I focus so much on the short to near term in the market. For example, I'm not the guy that have bought Apple Computer and held it all these years, even though maybe my 15-year-old might have told me 5-6 years ago he loves Apple and he buys it. Dad, go buy Apple Computer, and he would have held it in his college retirement or college fund, not retirement fund. But maybe putting something away, could have made some sense, but I tend to be a little bit more aggressive that way. I view the market, as I said a moment ago, as a way of making a living. I'm a survivor. I've been doing this 35 years. I haven't been in my book, the Trader's Book of Volume, which you didn't mention, came out last year from McGraw-Hill. In the opening chapter, I talk about how I've never been caught in a market crash. I'm talking about from 1987 forward. I'm talking about 1998. I'm talking about before 9/11. I'm talking the 2000 top. I'm talking 2007. Just before the flash crash in 2010. I see the volume coming in, and I don't know if a crash is coming, but is there something really wrong here? And I get out.
Now, when you say 9/11, though, what would have forecasted that? Was it because there was going to be a crash anyway, regardless of 9/11 or not?
We were in a downtrend. There was volume coming into the downside. I put out a sell signal. I said the market's going into a correction. No way of knowing that the planes are going to hit the World Trade Center. And it's published. It's on record. It's because you see it in the tape. Maybe the word got out. There's all these conspiracy theories out there that they knew that the planes were going to hit the building, and there was interest in the Middle East that were shorting the market. You can read about this. I'm not making this stuff up. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were acting in the market. Who knows? It's speculation. But you saw the technical patterns deteriorating. So I'm very proud of the fact that I don't get caught in the crashes. I get out. Sometimes I get short, sometimes I'm just in cash, and this is why I consider myself a survivor. But getting back to your question, I like to ring the register along the way, and every time in my experience, if I want to take a shot on something and go heavy, this is going to make me millions of dollars, you lose. Because you're overly committed, you're emotional, you're not thinking clearly, and I try to do smaller positions and take the trade. Now, you asked me what would I hold forever? At this point in my life, it would be the gold and silver, because I think they're in, as I mentioned in my presentation, we're in this 20-year uptrend, which lasts till 2020. So I think the big cycle is behind us. If you can buy dips in gold and silver, I think you'll be okay, which I've been doing. The time will come to sell. And whether that's 2018, 2016, 2022, whatever the year is, we're going to get the blow off, and it's going to be time to get back into the stock market and forget gold and silver. Maybe they're going to go back to the gold standards, currencies will stabilize, there won't be need for it anymore. Who knows? I'm just going to flow with what's happening.
What are you seeing, and what are you telling your subscribers about the markets right now? A lot of people, because of quantitative easing, they're expecting a huge rally, but we've been pricing this in for months now.
Right.
What are you seeing in the markets? Are we looking at an uptrend, or are we looking at is it possible that we have another crash, like a 08 style crash in the market?
Anything is possible. The seasonality stuff in my forecast model is saying, be careful here. The rally, the short-term rally should be ending here in September. Whether it ended last week or mid-September. There's the Fed meeting coming up next week. A lot of anticipation about the QE. What Mario Draghi already said, he was going to do some printing in Europe. But the cycles and then my short-term work says, maybe about mid-September, around now, we should hit a top and we should pull back and we should get a correction here for a few weeks. So a little cautious into September, October, and then much depends. The market will tell us. If Romney looks like the favorite, even though I don't think he could solve any more problems than Obama because the problems are just too big, the market may start rallying. And if he gets elected, you might see a bigger short-term rally. But the market, you may anticipate that. But I'm thinking, if he does get in, rally to the end of the year or maybe early next year, and then I'll just take it from there. I'm sort of inclined to think that we have so many problems that we're not going to come out of this so fast. There might be a rally with or without Romney, but next year, the year after, we could still be in a bear cycle. But let me flow with the numbers and go from there. But I've been calling it pretty good here the last 6 months because my model said, look for this rally, presidential cycle rally. We've had a nice move here, and I think if you're a trader, you'd be looking to take profits here and then see where we are in about 6 weeks.
How does the role of the economy, as far as the baby boomers, for example? There was obviously a lot of baby boomers buying stocks in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
They were peaking in their spending habits. Things were good. Baby boomers are aging. They're going to be exiting the stock market. The younger generation doesn't have as good of quality jobs. So how is that going to play into the volume of the stock market? For example, Bill Gross has recently said the era of equities is dead or something to that nature.
I've heard that so many times in the last 30, 40 years. In 74 it looked really bad, in 87 it looked really bad, at the bottom in 2003, the end of the world. We just saw a 2009 bottom. Market always seems to come back. A lot of it is professional traders, moving the markets today. I would say the individual has been shell-shocked and has pulled out to a large degree because of what happened in 2007, 2008, the Facebook disaster that everybody's talking about. So But it's funny, when the market starts to come and runs for a while, how it sucks people back in. And I would say an overall comment between now and the next 10, 15 years, I wouldn't be surprised that they get the Dow to 25,000 or some incredible 30,000, some incredible number. Not to say we can't get another shake along the way, and we may have a first couple bad years and whoever gets reelected. But I just have this feeling, we'll eventually pull out of this in the next couple, 3 years. It could get worse first, but eventually the markets will come back. So I guess I'm a long-term optimist because I just think it has to be. Otherwise, what's the alternative? It's blood in the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody's out of work and everything is zero, what is that? That's war. That's instability. So at some point, rational heads have to come together and solve problems, whether it's a gold standard or whatever it takes to get the economies and everything in sync in the world. So I would say, I trade them. I'm going to move the next year, 2 year, 5 years and flow with it. But if I was asked, for my sons, on a long-term basis, I would say 10, 15 years from now, you'll see much, much higher prices than we even imagined, only because that's just the way the world works. We have to move toward an optimistic result. There's no other alternative. That's really it. I think that's where we'll be.
Has the high-frequency trading affected your models at all?
Not at all. Actually, I have a part of my book that talks about that as a part of a chapter, because I was asked this question many times. High-frequency traders are just churning back and forth pennies during the day, but the trend of the market or the trend of the stock is what it is, and they're just trading within that. So in my work, for example, if I get what I call a positive volume reversal, stock's moving higher on more volume, and it's doing that the day after, it keeps moving higher, that gives me the trend. What they're doing intraday back and forth, you'll see shakes during the day, back and forth. The net result is, did it go higher on more volume? Conversely, is it a downtrend? You'll see net sellers and volume to the downside. You'll see this in any index, currency, future market, stock. And it hasn't affected my ability to call the market or to make the trades that I've been very successful in trading. And I can only assume, therefore, it has no effect.
In closing, short-term forecast for gold and silver. We just had huge moves up. Are we going to continue this rally, or are we topping off here for short term?
My models would indicate, a little peak as in the equity market, here by mid-September, if not sooner. We're right here. We're around September 8th, 9th. So in this general early to mid-September timeframe, we should hit a little trading peak. Go a little higher next week, maybe blow off into mid-month, and then we're going to go into a little bit of correction for a couple, 3 weeks or a month, and then I think back up again. So if you're a trader, I'd be looking to take profits here in the next 1 to 5 days or a week, and then looking to come back in on the next step. But seasonality is strong into February, and I think there's still another run coming, and I wouldn't be surprised to see gold at 2,000 either by the end of the year or into the first quarter of next year. And silver, if it can take out $37, it could be back into the 40s, but that level is resistance. So let's see if we can get to 37.
Mark, very successful man. You did mention that you do like to talk a little politics. So I do want to ask you one bonus question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
There were a lot of people running for president this year, mainly on the Republican side, because it was obviously a primary. There was nobody going to run against Obama on the Democratic side. Is there anybody who gets you excited as far as, like, you just said the problems are too big no matter who wins.
Right.
So is there anybody that you watch and say, man, if that man could be president, I think he could fix it?
It's Ron Paul, without a question.
Yeah.
I know there's some concern about his foreign policies and stuff, because I'm very pro-Israel, and I'd be concerned that he may abandon Israel, and there are some places that may need some support. But I don't want to see this country going into another war. I wouldn't want my son fighting another war, which I think is a war of no purpose. So, but his economic policies make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to stick to the Constitution. We have to get back on a gold standard. We have to rein in all the extreme, I call them the banksters that are running this country. And unfortunately, I'm very much a supporter and believer of Edward Griffin's work, the creature from Jekyll Island. He was here at the conference.
We talked to him last night.
I admired him beyond belief, because he had the courage, and he influenced my life to a great degree when he came out with his book in the mid-90s. Absolutely true. The Fed is a big problem for this country, and I think Ron Paul would address that issue, and I think that would be a big solution. We have to go through some pain first, but maybe that's the pain we need before Dow goes to 30,000. Maybe we need to do a little, as I call it, get a little enema, clean this out.
Since Ron Paul's not on the ballot, what do you think of a person like Gary Johnson?
A libertarian, obviously, and in the right camp. I'd rather see Ron Paul in there, but problem is, Romney or Obama, they're still being backed by Wall Street.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's still a Wall Street game. The banks are still in control. The Federal Reserve is in control. So nothing really changes. There might be some political posturing, these comments about, women's rights and, all these things that come up, and the immigration issues, a lot of things that are sort of distractions. But ultimately, the country's being run by the Federal Reserve and the banks, and that's created all these problems. In the last 100 years, we know the dollar is devalued about 95% since the Fed was created in 1913.
Yeah.
They've done no favors for our country. The U.S. is in decline relative to the rest of the world. So obviously, it's just a formula that doesn't work anymore. We're bailing out the bad guys, and that's not what we should be doing in this country. So ultimately, I think Ron Paul will be vindicated. Though he's retiring, his son is out there. As you probably know, the young group, the college group, is supportive of Ron Paul. So maybe it'll take another generation to clean it out. But it's coming. It has to come. We can't run on the same formula forever. We just can't.
Hopefully, I would have loved to have seen Ron Paul win this year.
The forces are just too great against him. But the young people are there, and time is on our side. And I think we're going to see the changes. Because people just see, when the bad guys like a John Corzine and these people that get away, MF Global walk away clean. There's something wrong with the system. That accounts can be cleaned out at a firm like MF Global, and the top people are not charged, or they walk away scot-free. There's something wrong. A small guy, you and I go steal a pack of cigarettes, we're in jail for 7 years.
Yeah.
But you can steal $50 billion, and you're off on the street the next day raising money and doing deals. What's that say about our system? So I think Ron Paul would clean that up because he wouldn't allow that. I think.
Where do you think the movement goes now? Because Ron Paul was able to unify it. Ron Paul was able to make people flip 180 degrees. I myself am a big Ron Paul supporter. It's no surprise to my audience. But I used to be a big government Republican, and then he made me a constitutionalist.
Right.
And when you think about it, it's both the parties. They are the same on the issues that matter,
right?
Like spending, like military interventionism. Where does the Ron Paul movement go from here? I mean, are we going to get fractured into a bunch of pieces? Or do we need one leader? Is it going to have to be a Rand Paul that steps up to the plate?
I think you need that at some point. Sure, there has to be the charismatic person leading the movement. And I don't know if Rand is as good as his dad, but the concepts are there. I don't have the answer for you. I mean, we all hope for the best, but if the Republicans get reelected and we fall flat on our face, then it wouldn't surprise me any more than Obama's formulas.
Yeah.
So I think. I know it's going to take another crisis, another financial crisis to change the minds of the average person out there. I don't know. I know the word is out.
Yeah.
There's discussion about it. The fact that you could talk about abolishing the Fed, and Berkshire Bernanke's worried about his job, there. But the question is, will we have the courage to do it? And, I'm a supporter of the movement because I think we need the changes. Though people, criticize me and they'll say, well, what's the alternative? If you get rid of the Fed, what's really the world going to be like? Is it going to be a lot of pain and suffering? I mean, are you willing to go through that? I mean, what's the alternative if it was abolished tomorrow? There'd probably be a bit of chaos, and chaos isn't good either. So I don't have a formula for you. I just know we need to make some serious changes. I mean, this country didn't have a national bank until it was created in 1913. Andrew Jackson closed the national bank, I believe the Bank of the United States, in 1847. There was a whole period we didn't have a national bank, so the country was able to grow and prosper without it. Maybe the answer is regional banks or local banks, not having big banks like J.P. Morgan and Citigroup and Wells Fargo controlling everything. Maybe we need to go back to the community, which is what this country was really based on. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Mark, if someone would like to reach out to you, learn more about your trading, or do you actually give people suggestions on what to trade on?
Yeah, we have a current portfolio.
Okay.
It comes out on vrtrader.com. We have bulletins all day, and we also have our weekly gold letter. And yes, please go to vrtrader.com and you can learn about our services or VR Gold Letter.
Mark, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.